Hey, Mount fans, this is Adam Pohl. We are so excited to be kicking off a new show, the Donny Lind Show, here that's going to run throughout this entire season, the 25-26 campaign of Mount St. Mary's basketball. It's presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union, and we're going to talk to the coach here in just moments. A reminder, the Mount will open their season with an exhibition at Hood College in Frederick on October 29th. The Mount is then at West Virginia on November 4th. And then the big home opener, you have got to be at Knott Arena. Tickets are available now at mountathletics.com as Mount St. Mary's takes on Bucknell on Friday, November 7th. We're going to have the banner drop celebrating last year's championship run. Now, a conversation with Coach Donny Lind as our first Donny Lind Show starts now. Well, alongside Donny Lind, my name is Adam Pohl. It's our first Donny Lind Show. How does it feel?
Exciting. It should be fun.
Presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. We're excited here in the lead up to this 2025-26 season. And obviously, this was a different offseason for you, Coach. In your first offseason, you were trying to bring back returning players that you had never coached before, trying to get established, bringing that culture. What was it like for you in this coming off the championship, bringing in a lot of new players this offseason? How different was it?
It was definitely different. Really fortunate to have some people here that already knew something, right? The first year when it was just me and then slowly adding staff, I was teaching everyone everything.
Right.
And so to have the staff in place and intact still from year one to year two really helps in the off season. They know me, they know what I look for in a player. So when we go into recruiting, they kind of know a little better feel of what would work for me. Mm-hmm. And, definitely allowed for a more smooth and certainly less chaotic off season.
Everybody always just thinks about the players, but for you to have the entire staff return, it had to be pivotal.
Yeah, it was huge, and I have an unbelievable staff. These guys work incredibly hard to serve our players. They are committed to helping them be the best student athletes and people that they can be. And we're really aligned on that. We certainly have our arguments over, is this player better than that player in recruiting, or do we want to guard a ball screen this way or that way? But we do an unbelievable job of hearing each other out. And when we come to a decision, we're all aligned and we can work really hard to go execute whatever the plan is.
In this era of college basketball, bringing back your point guard, like Xavier Lipscomb, he knows how to run your offense. It's almost like bringing another coach back.
Oh, no question.
And that's just enormous for your program.
It is. Being able to retain a guy like X is just, it's enormous. Like I said, he knows what it takes to win. He knows what the locker room needs to hear in order to do that. That's the biggest thing for me is I trust his voice in our locker room with our guys. It's easy for 2 hours a day in practice to make sure they hear the right thing. We coach them hard. We give them the right information. We have the sort of attitude and energy that we want them to have. But the other 22 hours a day, there's only brief pop-ins from me and our staff. And so I have to trust that the guys that are in that locker room, especially our leaders, especially a guy like X, is pushing forward that same messaging. And, I can trust that, because of our relationship, because of everything that he's learned over the course of his career in college basketball, that, he might not say it the same way I say it, but the guys are hearing the same thing, and that's unbelievable for our team.
Last year, I think the thing that stood out more than anything about the championship season was the depth of your team. And Orlandis Keys was a huge example of that in the postseason. Pacheco gets hurt in the last game of the regular season. Keys was injured going into the postseason, and he really filled in and shot the ball so well in the MAC tournament. It's got to be big to bring him back. Second year at the Mount, but he's a veteran player.
Yeah, no doubt. When Landis decided he wanted to come back, we had a long conversation about what that would look like. It was up to him to see, hey, how much can I grow? Can I become a all-the-time guy as opposed to someone who's, steps up in a big moment? And so he has worked his tail off all offseason to shore up some of the holes in his game, to become a better defender, to be a more consistent offensive and defensive threat, shooting the ball really well, but doing more things, playmaking for other guys, touching the paint, trying to he wants to fill a bigger role. He doesn't want to just be a 6th or 7th guy. He wants to step up going into his senior year. And so he really taken that on himself, spent a lot of time in the weight room. It's been fun to kind of watch him grow over this offseason.
And then, you have a collection of players that returned that obviously have been bench pieces over the last few years, or even a redshirt freshman. Obviously, Patrick Haig, who had a big role late in the season, had a big game against Merrimack in the semifinal. A.K. Kebe returns this year, an unbelievable athlete. And then Espinoza, the redshirt freshman, could have a role as well this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys, again, we talk about having a good offseason. Those guys have been committed to working on their bodies, working on their game, and no different than, we talk about with Orlandis, like they want more, and they are fighting and competing every day with the new guys that we've brought in order to try to earn, a bigger role. And, somebody, I think about, you talk about Patrick being ready, when his number's called, those guys, they're the right type of people to be successful at the Mount and be successful for me. And that's why, they're given an opportunity. They're an opportunity to stay here and continue to grow. And also, now while they're here, we can pour into them and help them become the best player that they can be. And, the level of competition we've had every day has been a lot of fun. And, I love competition. I love seeing our guys compete every day because at the end of the day, if you compete every day, there's a winner and a loser. Then it helps make my job easier when I decide who I'm going to play and who's not going to play.
Thanks, Coach. We're going to take a quick break. We'll return with more. We've got to take a look at these newcomers as well right after this. Welcome back to the Donny Lind Show, presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. Well, the season is upon us. Let's take a look at some of the new faces that are going to be here at the Mount this year. But first of all, it is kind of wild as far as the timing, the calendar of being a college coach, is it not? Yeah. Because what happened last year, Mount St. Mary's wins the MAC, but that means 12 schools did not win the MAC. Those schools are into their off season. They're already hitting the transfer portal, setting up their next season. You guys are at the apex of really what is the college basketball lexicon, playing in the NCAA tournament, but trying to get the next season underway was already happening. It's kind of a wild turnaround where you don't really have much of an offseason, do you, Coach?
No, not too much. And certainly you wouldn't trade it, right? You wouldn't trade a longer offseason for not playing in the NCAA tournament. And so, it's the cost of being a really good team. And, so the way our season ended last year, in Raleigh on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, we stay the night in Raleigh and travel back on Saturday, get back to campus Saturday evening, and then Sunday we get a day to do our laundry and recover, and then Monday morning the transfer portal opened. And so we had to meet with our entire team, and see who was going to come back and who wasn't going to come back, and then get to work on trying to find this year's team. And that's, just the way it is in today's day and age. It's whether we all like it or we don't like it, it is what it is. And so, we're going to embrace the guys that we can get here, the guys who are good fits for Mount St. Mary's, and then, try to find a way to give them a great situation here so that they can become the best players they can be.
And some of these new faces here in the Mount program, this was a great front line last year. J.D. Cordelia, Tola Adebayo, Terrell R. Jr. Obviously, two of those three players graduate. Dola is on to George Mason. So this is going to be a new front line. They all
graduated. All three of them got Mount degrees.
All of them got Mount degrees. And I think a big piece of the puzzle, though, has been how great you guys have been able to reboot the front line.
Yeah, it's important to me that we can be one of the bigger, more physical teams in the MAC. I think it is a good fit for me. It's a good fit for the style of play. And so we knew we were setting out to try to not necessarily replace those guys or
Sure.
replicate those guys, but bring in three guys that could carry that same kind of load. And I think we did a great job with that. Luke McKeldin is a true 5-man, 6'10". He's originally from London, England, but he grew up in most of his life in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
So this is a little bit of a homecoming for Luke. He's was at Santa Clara the past 2 years, and so to get a chance to be back home and play in front of his friends and family, he's had a great offseason. Different, right? It's not like we're just going to replace JD and Luke's going to be the same player as JD. It doesn't work like that. But we believe he can have a similar effect on the game.
Yeah.
Justin Amati is a hybrid athletic forward. Can play some 4, can play some 5, really high field goal percentage, really good finisher around the basket. Like I said, very athletic, great offensive rebounder. With us playing up tempo and trying to press, he's a great fit for that. I'm excited for him. He had a great career at JMU, graduated from JMU, went to Tulsa last year. It was banged up with injuries and things like that and didn't really get a chance to play all that much there. Excited for him to come here and kind of see what he can do. Thankfully, we were able to really recruit him because Keith Chesley, my assistant, coached him at JMU when he was a freshman. So little reunion for those two as well. And then Trey DeVoe. Trey DeVoe is a kind of a forward hybrid on the other side where he's a 4-man. He could play some 3, but he's really a mismatch type of 4-man. A very good shooter, strong and physical. So if you put a smaller guy on him to worry about the shooting, he can put him around the basket and kind of be physical with them. And then if you put a bigger guy on him, he's smaller and quick, so he can kind of go by him. So he's a natural scorer. Really scored the ball well at Western Illinois before he came here. One of the things I love about Trey is his perspective. Trey started in junior college. Didn't have any Division I basketball offers. Had Division I football offers, but no basketball. Wanted to play basketball. So went to junior college. From there went to Division II. From there went to Western Illinois, and now he's here at the Mount. And a lot of times the transfer portal gets maligned for these guys moving around and going to different schools. But what guys like Trey have, and really all the bigs, is they have a perspective and an appreciation for what we do really well here.
Sure.
They are coming to the Mount for a reason, and it's because they see something that we do well that the last place they were at maybe didn't do very well for them.
Sure.
And for everybody, it's different. But Trey's perspective has been great. It's really helped him lead our guys and step into a leadership role. He's got a great voice that carries with our team. So those 3 guys will certainly play a big role in our front court.
You've got a lot of guards that have come in as well. We talked about your returning guards, but it's going to be a deep team, and I know that with the style that you're going to play, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to play.
Yeah, no doubt. Anastasios Rosikias,
Yes.
he's Greek, but he goes by Stas, and we love him. He's a big wing. He can really shoot the ball. And so, he's coming to us from Florida State, played on the Greek national team, so didn't get to be with us this summer, but played in the U20 European Championships. It was a great experience for him. But he's had a really good fall and starting to kind of find his rhythm here with us as we get ready for the season to start. So, like I said, big wing, really good shooter, can finish well around the basket. He's got good size and a good little burst in him. Mason So is a guy that I know really well. I got to coach him at Greensboro his freshman year, was involved in recruiting Mason. Mason's a point guard. He makes guys better. He touches the paint and can really make good plays, make good decisions with the ball in his hands. And he's got a knack for scoring. He knows how to get to his spot and not just find other guys, but get to his spot and know how to get a great shot off too. So he's kind of a combo-ish point guard. Then we've got Anthony Arrington. Anthony is a scoring guard.
Yes.
He is a physical scoring guard. We've had guys like him at the Mount throughout our time from when I was here the first time and throughout. He's just a guy who knows how to score the ball. He's wired to score, as they say. He's a little herky-jerky. He's not necessarily a traditional game, right? He's got a little bit of shake to him. He can get to his spot. He's a very good mid-range shooter. He's a very good three-point shooter, although he doesn't have, the prettiest form that you'd ever want a guard to have. But it goes in, so I'm not going to change it, that's for sure. But Anthony is a guy who can really score the ball for us. And so, bringing those transfer guards in, I think can really bolster, the guys that we brought back. And then, like I said before, it brings to a lot of competition. And then have a couple freshman guys that we can bring in as well.
Yeah, let's talk about those freshmen because you have a 7-footer that's a part of that pack.
Yeah. So we brought in 2 freshmen this year, Yahya Diop from Senegal and West Africa, now our second Senegalese player.
Yes.
Coach Sidi Saul came to us from Senegal as well. So we're certainly representing over there in West Africa where there's a lot of Mount fans that are excited to see what we can do this season. Yahya's been fun to coach. He also couldn't come over this summer. Took a little while to get a visa and get him over here. But now that he's here, he has not missed a beat. His size, his physicality, his playing hard has all, really shown on the floor. And he's just going to be a fun guy to watch develop this year and throughout, his time at the Mount. I think he's got a really high ceiling. And then Justin May is our other freshman. Justin's a kind of a point guard, combo guard. He's from Arkansas, but he did prep school at Linkier Prep in Branson, Missouri, and it's one of the best prep schools in the country. And so bringing Justin in, he's a guy who, I'm excited to see him develop. He's got 2 really good, really experienced point guards in front of him, guys that he can kind of learn from and model his game after, and that he can then use that knowledge, to help in practice every day. If his number gets called, if there's he's going to be ready to go, and then really develop for the future. When we recruited him, we talked to him a lot about, you got some really good players in front of you, and that's okay. Don't shy away from it. Right, come in, compete with those guys every day, earn whatever you can, but then also learn, right, and be ready for a future here at the Mount, and that's certainly the goal for J-May.
Well, we're getting right up to it. That first week of November, the Mount has an exhibition game at Hood in Frederick on October 29th. The season will open November 4th at West Virginia, and then the home opener, which is going to include the big banner drop, will be Friday, November the 7th, right here at the Mount against Bucknell. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thanks, Adam.
That's the Donny Lind Show, presented by Educational Systems Federal Credit Union. We'll see you again next time.